Welcome, 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 everyone, to another one of our amazing Hot Part Speaking community sessions. And you know that every month we run one of these amazing sessions. And I know we always have some amazing first timers with us. So let me also check the chat. We have Christiane from Belgium, yay, Brussels, amazing. Monique from Paris, France. And you say you're an experienced speaker who's not being paid for a majority of your presentation yet. Okay, yet. But that's going to change, and we start changing that right here, right now. Anita, South Africa. I love how we're spanning the globe again on our session, as we always do. Welcome, everyone. So, again, I know we always have some first timers with us who might want to know who is this Monique, who is running these sessions. Well, I'm the founder of Hard Part Business, and my mantra is speak up, scale up, impact the world in your own unique, powerful way. And we've helped hundreds of clients from about 50, more than 50 countries now to go professional with their speaking and to really double, triple, quadruple, and some even more their income with our Voice to Millions framework. And I myself have been a paid speaker for more than 20 years on stages in more than 30 countries around the world. And I know that, a lot of you are very serious about stepping up with your speaking. Say me in the chat if you say that you really want to bring your speaking to a new level this year. In that case, I'm inviting you to also arrange a quick call with me after the session today so that we can really chat about where you want to go, where you are, where you want to go, how you really bridge the gap, and how you step up with your speaking professionally, and how do you use the power of your voice and your speaking to grow and scale your business further. We also have a special gift for you. Everyone that books a call with us, that you get actually daily hints and tips of what you can do to really boost your confidence, boost your speaking, boost your income, and grow your business step by step for a year. That's our Speak to Scale calendar. So if you do book a time with me, you get that calendar for free. And it's already made a lot of change, to people's speaking experience, the income they make, the business they build. So Brenda's going to share with you the link to my calendar so you can arrange a call. And everyone that does arrange a call gets that Speak to Scale calendar for free. It's 365 steps on stepping up with your speaking. But this session today is not about me at all. It's all about you individually, and it's about our guest. And as you know, every month we have an amazing speaker here that normally when you're lucky, you see them on stages, but you normally not easily meet them one-on-one. But our guest today again is an amazing lady. I met her several times. I've actually been on one of her programs to learn from her as well myself. And she's going to talk to you today about how you get booked for speaking engagements beyond the 1 or 2,000 fees. Okay. So she's going to talk about how you raise your fees. And I don't know how many of you feel like, you're still being lowballed for your brilliance on stage. You're not earning the money you want. Well, if you feel that you've ticked all the credibility boxes, like you're on media, you have speaking gigs, you give podcast interviews, you still find yourself stuck and not getting paid what you want, or maybe you're not even getting paid anything yet, this session is going to turn it around for you. We'll talk about why good speakers often still get underpaid and how to change that. We'll talk about the positioning gap that keeps you stuck at lower fees and how to break it out of that gap or close that gap. Also, we talk about what bookers really look for when paying, when they are ready and happy to pay premium rates. And we also talk about key mindset and visibility shifts to help you stand out and get booked with ease. So let me introduce our amazing guest today. Some of you might already know her. Her name is Lovelda Vincenzi. She is quite an institution in the UK and beyond in the speaking world. She is an international master of ceremonies. She's definitely a thought-after speaker coach, a trusted voice behind world brands like Moët Hennessy. Everyone that likes champagne, right? She is the trusted voice behind world-class brands like Heineken, Roche-Posay, the United Nations, and others. And she's hosted amazing events Alongside the likes of President Obama, she's shared stages with dignitaries, thought leaders, global change makers, and you will find out in a minute, she's really known for her bold and brilliant approach to visibility and positioning. Lovelda really supports purpose-driven women to become world-class speakers and confidently raises their rates without burnout, gimmicks, or compromise. Well, Lovelda, welcome on board today. It's lovely to have you, and everyone else, great to have you. It's amazing to run this session together with you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here. Really excited to dive in. I've actually just come back off. I co-run a summit called the Speaker Summit, an awards ceremony. It literally just happened at the weekend, so I'm trying to bring my energy back. But the good news for you is the day before we do a specific VIP summit where we invite bookers and bureaus. So we had a speaker manager who manages some of the biggest names in the industry. There were 3 of them in the room from various different bookers' backgrounds. So I'm coming to you with the freshest insights off the press. I also did a bookers panel with them, and I did not hold back. I asked them everything, right? So you've got all of that freshness kind of coming into this talk today as well. So a little bit about me. I'm actually going to kick off today by telling you a little bit of a story, because I think sometimes stories kind of help us to connect and help people to understand each other. So many, many years ago, when I started speaking on stages, I did what a lot of people did. I'm one of those people, when I go to do something, drop a yes in the comments if you're similar. I'm all in, right? So I never kind of half wishy-washy something. I'm either 100% in or I just don't bother. So when I started my speaking career and I started in moderating and hosting, I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to build a list of 1,000 event organizers, because 100 was too small of a number. That wasn't playing big enough. If I'm going to build an actual business, go big or go home was my take. So I built a list of 1,000 event organizers. And when I tell you I built that list, my spreadsheet was so sexy. It had the colors and we had follow-up sequences and all the emails going out. And it taught me a lot. Firstly, it taught me how thick one's skin needs to be when you start sliding into people's DMs uninvited, asking them for things that they never said that they wanted. Because I had some interesting responses come back to me day in and day out. I really sat down and pushed really hard, because when I started, I thought, if I'm going to get on stages, the thing that you need to do is make yourself visible and grab the bull by its horns, so to speak, and take life. I'm not going to sit back and wait for life to give me something. I'm going to take it on and go all gusto. So I did. So 1,000 organizers, and I got some really interesting responses back. I'll tell you, it built credibility. It built confidence, because some of the responses I got back was, is this how you really connect with people, right? So some of them were really not very nice. But I persevered, because I told myself I didn't need to love it, right? We've heard this before. I don't need to enjoy it. If I want to get the job done, I just need to show up and do the same thing consistently, regardless of whether or not I like it. It's called resilience. I'm just going to resiliently show up and keep going, which I did. And eventually it worked. Eventually it worked. And I managed to secure the best speaking engagement, right? So at the time, I was probably this was like the first year of my speaking business. And so I cracked the States. I booked a massive international engagement in the States. It's like a 3-day gig. They have 10, 20,000 people come through the doors. It was not small, right? It only took me 6 months of perseverance, 6 months of following up. I had to get on a bureau's books in order to be able to close the deal. And it was all going amazing. I was sitting there feeling quite chuffed with myself. I was absolutely chuffed to bits, because as far as I was concerned, I'd finally cracked it. And that was all great until one day I woke up to an email from one of my bureaus. And the email said, "Lovelda, have you seen the news from Trump?" And I thought, what's he done now? This isn't good. The thing is, the year was, and I'll jump to my slides really quickly. The date was the 12th of March, because I remember it quite distinctly. The date I received this message was the 12th of March, and I can clearly remember the message. The year was 2020, We know where this is going. So I'd done 1,000 outreaches. I'd reached out for 6 months. And the news that was in there, that email, was that Trump had closed the borders. So I had 1,000 outreaches over 6 months. I'd scored the gig of a lifetime, and I was left with nothing. Now, I share this story because many of you are possibly on this call thinking, she's going to teach me how to pitch. She's going to teach me how to pitch. And I could. I 1,000% could teach you how to pitch. But the thing that I learned was when I finished doing all of this pitching, one, I didn't enjoy it. And secondly, based on results, it didn't work. It didn't work. If I went ham for leather for 1,000 organizers over the course of 6 months, and I was left with nothing. Now, it was accentuating circumstances, granted, but my response rate was probably about 5 or 6%. So it was a lot of work and effort in order to get one gig. And I'm the sort of person that I like minimum effort, maximum reward. And this was not feeling like minimum effort, maximum reward. So I found myself asking myself the question, there's got to be a better way. There has got to be a better way to do this. And truth is, deep down, I knew there was a better way. And I knew there was a better way because all of this time that I'd spent doing these 1,000 cold outreaches, thickening up my skin, I'd actually been scoring gigs. I was getting international engagements. I introduced Monica Lewinsky during this time. I was getting gigs in all around Europe at this time. So engagements were coming, not through any of this hard work and hustle, but the engagements were coming anyway. So I knew there was something in this. And the main thing that I realized is, I thought what I needed was a list of events and a way to pitch. And the issue with doing this was not only did it not work, but it worked against the way that bookers book. So today, instead of teaching you how to pitch, I'm going to teach you the psychology of bookings. How does that sound? I'm going to teach you what it takes and what bookers actually look for and how they work. Because what I realized when I was cold pitching is that I was working against the way that bookers naturally work and trying to impose myself onto a situation. Whereas when I was working with them, which had nothing to do with this cold pitching, I was scoring gigs. So let's have a think about this for a moment. The reality is that cold pitching is a really, really risky business. And it's a risky business because organizers are risk averse. They're risk managers, right? Organizers are not looking to make their lives more difficult. They book speakers. They're looking to book so that they can protect the experience of their event, which means reducing the amount of risk in their room. So think about it this way. As an organizer, event organizers have typically spent anywhere from 6 months to sometimes 2 years planning this event. The last thing they want is somebody on their stage that they have no idea who they are, right? So they're trying to reduce the risk so that they can be assured that the experience they've been planning is what gets delivered to their guests. And you can rest assured the bigger the event, the more important this principle is going to be. So if you're going to think like a booker, then here's how bookers think. They want speakers that they can trust. They need a high degree of trust in this person. If I've spent a lot of time organizing an event, anybody here married by show of hands? Yeah. Did you organize your own wedding? Were you about to take, if you organized your own wedding, were you about to take a punt on the band? Or maybe just, take a guess at a venue, because they emailed you and said the venue was amazing, right? If you think about how important that event is to you, it's equally as important for an event organizer who's pulling off an event, right? It might not be a wedding, but for some organizers, that's like having a wedding every single week, right? So they want suppliers, they want speakers that they can trust, which means they want speakers that feel like a low risk to them to book. They're not wanting to take on a whole bunch of risk in their booking. The interesting thing is, I told you I'm going to bring in new insights. The bookers that were on the VIP day last weekend, one of the things that they said to us is that they rarely put people on their books they haven't seen or interacted with themselves. These are bureaus. They are finding people for clients. and they don't want to tarnish their reputation for their clients, right? So if you think of that trend of how important it is for people to reduce the risk, low risk is super, super important. So that means that they want to have confidence that you get their audience. You understand who you're speaking to. You can't just go in with something wishy-washy. The problem with cold outreach is you have to do it, it becomes a volume game. And when you start to play a volume game, you're no longer playing a relationship game, you're playing a transactional game. At this point, what you're sending, at least what I was sending, was messages that were essentially, I want to be on a stage. Not necessarily your stage. Your stage seems nice, but I want to be on a stage, right? Do you want somebody who's interested in any old stage and they couldn't give a hoot, or do you want somebody who's interested in your stage? So if you can't take the time to get to know me, why should I take the time to get to know you? There's another 15 of these messages you'll be sending tomorrow. So they want confidence that you get their audience, not just generally your topic, but what would make you brilliant for this specific event. And they want proven ability they want to know that you're proven to deliver, or at least that there's perception of it, right? So I've never seen you in person. I know you've written lots of books. I've watched your TEDx talk. I've got some view. People in my network are all raving about you. There needs to be something where it's not just somebody out of the blue has come and spoken to me. So with all of that being said, then, what we need to do is, this is now no longer just about being a professional speaker, right? It's not just about being brilliant on stage. In order to get booked, it's also about understanding the psychology of the booker. What do they care about, right? Because if you're really, really great, but doing the nonsense I was doing, which is, right, I'm just going to bang on a lot of doors until somebody lets me in, I'll play this by numbers. I was actually doing the opposite. I probably got myself blacklisted in doing that. In fact, I know I did, because some people told me they'd never book me as a result of it, right? If you're working against the psychology of a booker, what can happen is you're doing all of this stuff, but having the complete opposite impact that you want to have. So today I'm going to share a couple of 2 psychological principles that will help you to get booked more. So event booking psychology, 2 principles. The first one I'm going to talk about is one it's called the construal level theory. We're going to call it the familiarity factor because it's easier to remember. Basically, it'll stick in your head, right? And I'm going to break these down for you. The second one is called the propinquity effect, basically top of mind. So how familiar are you and how frequently can I remember you, right? So if we take the familiarity factor, effectively what we're looking at is, the principle essentially says this: the more distant somebody feels, the more abstract and risky they feel. Can you see how cold outreach doesn't work now? Right? I am the most abstract person that you know nothing about, sliding into your DMs uninvited, asking you to please, like you and like 100 other people, give me some time on your stage. As I was speaking to some of these bookers, they were saying sometimes they are getting 25 to 50 messages a day from speakers with, let's face it, the same generic message. Hi, I think I would be brilliant to work with you. The same thing, right? It's not interesting. It's kind of abstract. It's you and every other person, you and everybody else. So the more abstract something feels, cold outreach basically gives this high psychological distance, which means it feels like a low trust environment to be in, right? So what we need to do is make ourselves more familiar. So why does this matter? It matters because what this is telling us then is that bookers are more inclined to book speakers that they either interacted with, right? So you've gone from complete no ball, I don't know you from Adam, to I've had a conversation with you. I've been in and around you. We've got friends in common. I've interacted with you. Even if it's chatting, we commented on each other's posts. You're now not an absolute stranger. That they've seen speak. I have an experience of you as a person, right? Now, if you send me something, you're a bit more familiar in my space. It feels less risky, especially if you've actually managed to deliver very well. Like, I've seen you speak. And finally, that you've come recommended by somebody I trust. Now let's go back to the wedding example. If you bumped into a wedding band at somebody else's wedding and you thought, oh, they're really good, more likely to book them, right? Trust is up there. You know, especially if you had a chat with them, they were really friendly, you've seen them speak, and they're recommended because your friend booked them for their wedding, and now you're like, oh, amazing, I'll go back to them. Much easier to do than let me search the internet as a whole and try and find somebody completely out of the blue. When you understand this, then you get to understand that actually people that you know in your network work a lot more effectively than people completely outside of your network. I'll give you an example. When I started out, I mentioned that I introduced Monica Lewinsky. Evidence happened. I'll tell you how this one came about. So when I started, I got a DM out of the blue on LinkedIn from a company based in Paris. And it was one of the first big engagements I did. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. People are finding me. Amazing, 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 amazing. This is before I knew what I was doing. They just happened to have found me. And when I got to that gig, I was so excited. I thought, this is a really, really great opportunity for me to connect with people, because every event that you're in is an opportunity to connect with other people in the space, right? My guess was if I'm on this stage, there must be lots of other people in the room doing similar events. So I went prepared to connect, to network, to meet people. Not necessarily because I was directly looking for business, although that was part of it, but just to connect with people as well. And one of my speakers I went to lunch with one of my speakers, and he brought a friend along with him. So it's me, his friend, my husband, and I. Lovely lunch, lovely lady, thought nothing of it, connected on Facebook, left it at that. Event finishes. 2 weeks later, she reaches out to me and says, Lovelda, my friend's doing an event in Lithuania, and she's looking for a host. And I really loved how you engaged at the last event. Do you mind if I put you in touch with her? I said, sure, no problem. At this point, I have no idea that Monica's even at the event, but I'm like, sure, let's see how this goes. Now, bearing in mind, this woman was not a speaker. I just connected with her because I thought she was a good person. That was it. Happened to have had lunch with her. Now, I'm saying this because I want you to think about the occasions you've been at events around other people in the industry and you've not leveraged that opportunity. You've not connected with them on LinkedIn. You've kind of started off something where you can be in a familiar circle. They've had an experience with you, but you've taken it no further than that, right? The reason this came about is we connected on Facebook, and we just stayed in touch. She put me in touch with her friend. Her friend tells me, you know, long and short of it, I get booked for the gig. Now, I get booked to do a gig with Monica Lewinsky. I am 3 months into this. I'm still working full time. That's how that gig came about. You know, I created familiarity because they'd interacted with me, they'd seen me, and then I've been recommended. All three of those things happened at once. Now, notice it wasn't all necessarily strategic. But I think sometimes what happens is we're in a sector, and we're in a sector where familiarity gets us booked, where knowing people gets us booked. Do people in our network know this is what we're doing? Are we taking time to connect with other speakers? Are we taking time to connect with bookers? Are we putting them in our LinkedIn? Are we re-engaging with them? Or are we going to events and then forgetting about them and starting all the way over from scratch? And then feeling like the only way I can put myself out there is to go against psychology by dropping into people's DMs. So I want you to really start thinking more about, if familiarity is the thing that helps me get booked, am I really leveraging that? Am I leaning into connecting more deeply with the people in my network? So that's the first one. So now let's talk about the top of mind principle. Essentially, people, what this says is people book those people they see most often, right? In other words, proximity creates opportunities. Now, why is this important? It highlights the costs of neglecting your network. All these people in LinkedIn, I've taken all these business cards, I've done nothing with it, right? Of overlooking your network and of ignoring your network. And I will go so far as to say, if you're represented by a speaker bureau and the last time you spoke to them was when you sent them the material to go on their books, you're not top of mind. You're not. I spoke to them. They've got 10,000 people on their books, and the top 1%, I learned the top 1% are making about 50% of the revenue. Their job as a bureau is not to market you. Their job is to get speakers for clients. Their clients are the event organizers, right? This highlights the impact of not going back to your past clients who booked you before and not having those conversations, right? You're no longer top of mind. Their event has moved on. You're not putting the effort in to remain top of mind. This highlights the impact of not connecting with people on LinkedIn or not putting out regular LinkedIn content. Ultimately, it matters because if you're not top of mind, somebody else is. And we know people can only remember so many people at a time. If you're not top of mind, you could be the best speaker for an upcoming event for somebody who's a first connection in your network, but they've forgotten about you. I got booked earlier on this year because I made a choice to go and reconnect with some of my bookers and agents, just phone calls for no other reason, just to kind of be like, hey, I'm here. Let me update you on what's gone on. Because I can also guarantee you, here's the other thing. You are not the same person you were 12 months ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. The last time you spoke to somebody 5 years ago, they're still pitching you based on what you were doing 5 years ago. And if that has changed, they could be in rooms that would be perfect for you now, but they don't know about it. So it really highlights how important it is to stay in the loop and to stay connected, not necessarily just for getting the bookings. The same way you're not the same person, they're not the same. Their business has moved on. Their focus has moved on. They've connected with more people. You're missing those opportunities by not staying in the mix. So what this means is generally the problem that I'm finding is that you're not visible enough with the people who already trust you. See, while I was doing all of that cold outreach, what I was not doing was thinking of my network. I find a lot of speakers kind of sit and go, oh, my stuff comes through referrals. That's good. That's good. That is the fastest, quickest, highest paid business you'll get. You don't have a lot of proving to do if it comes through your network. It is working with the familiarity principle. Somebody is recommending you, right? But that means you've got to remain visible with people who already trust you so that they can make those recommendations. It also tends to highlight that the problem is often that you're not staying in touch with people who've already said yes. Past bookers, past clients, other speakers who know you, people who've seen you on stage. You're just not staying in touch with them. You're not keeping them up to date with your latest materials. You're not sending them the stuff that would help them better book you. You're not staying in touch, therefore not staying top of mind. It means that you're not staying on top of your network and not mapping it out often. The number of times we just forget who we know. I remember years ago, there was a time when in an old business, I decided I was going to put out a press release. And this was before AI. So I'm on Googling how do you write a press release and, going from one website to the next, trying to piece things together. I'm generally not really great at writing things. I love speaking. It's my vibe. And I probably did this for about 4 or 5 days before I remembered that 2 of my closest friends, both of whom were bridesmaids, do this for a living. They do it for a living. We forget who's already in our network, right? Because we don't map it out. We don't think about where are the opportunities that were already there. So you've got all this low-hanging fruit, and instead we go out and make our lives 10 times more difficult for me. Or worse yet, ultimately what's happened is you just gone quiet. There was a time I used to say, get more bookings, but I seem to be the world's best kept secret. If I just tell people about it, maybe I'd get a few more bookings, right? So this is not necessarily about doing more. It's about being remembered by the right people in the right way at the right time. And you can control some of this. Being remembered, you have control over being remembered. That's about what you're putting out and how you're staying in touch with people. In the right way, that's your content, right? In the right way is keeping people up to date with where you're at. It's going back to clients on a regular cadence, somebody who booked you 1 year ago, and touching base to say, I've got a new talk. This is what's happened in the last year. Here's what I found. It's going to be better if you rebook me. Now you have the latest version of me. If you're doing this consistently enough, you start showing up at the right time. You start being brought up in the right conversations. I'll give you another example. A client of mine, she's very funny because a lot of people say, oh, I don't have anybody in my network. And when we mapped her network out, it turned out that her best friend from school, like when she was like 5, that sort of best friend, like going way back, happened to work at quite a senior level at a private members club. She'd forgotten about this, right? She's a host. She's a host. When we mapped her network out, I said, look, just have a chat with her. Let her know what you're up to. Because here's the thing, people want to book people they know, like, and trust. And if somebody's known you since you were 5, let's just say the know, like, and trust is probably covered in buckets, right? It doesn't take a lot of convincing at that point. If they can help you, they will. And she did. She happened to get booked for this gig on a regular basis, which puts her in front of more people who were able to book her more, and her business has taken off from there. Now, at this point, what normally happens is people say, but Lovelda, I don't really know how to map my network out. So I'm going to help you out a little bit. I'm going to give you a little sales lesson, because before I did all of this, before I quit my day job, which I worked in sales, my last day job was sales. So I'm going to take a few steps back and help you understand how to look at your network differently in a way that's going to be really powerful. Why do we jump forward and back? So this is a sales pipeline, right? We start at the beginning, and the goal is to move people all the way down the pipeline. And when we think of a sales pipeline, in sales terms, we start with contacts, and contacts are essentially anybody in your network, right? In sales terms, anybody in your database, any past client, anybody who's downloaded anything, anybody. These are just people who have interacted with you at some point. Those are contacts. The job is to move contacts across to leads, and leads are contacts who can either introduce you or refer you to an offer, right? So your leads tend to be people who've expressed some sort of interest in them in the network. They're sort of in and around the space. And you want to take those leads, you know they've got an event, that's a lead, potentially. You want to take those leads and you want to move those leads across to become opportunities. And opportunities are effectively active leads. These are people who've expressed an interest in working with you. And we convert opportunities to contacts. Now, our job is to move people all the way along the scale, right? To start from contacts, move them to leads, to opportunities, and to clients. Now, the interesting thing here is when most people think about selling, they think about opportunities and they think about clients. So 9 times out of 10, when I'm talking to people about, why don't we start by leveraging your network? People will say to me, I don't know anybody. And the reason they normally say that is they go, I don't know anybody who's got events. I don't know anybody who works in the event business. And all that's telling me is most of your attention is right at the end here, right in the opportunities and clients. But if we move our way back to leads and contacts and start warming these up, you'll end up with more people moving through the pipeline. Otherwise, you're relying on your pipeline just being people dropping in as opportunities. And if we're really building out sales, we've got to start with mining contacts for leads and mining leads for opportunities. And I'll give you an example of how this has worked really well. It's another client of mine. She booked her dream international speaking engagement using the warm outreach method. I'm about to sort of talk you through the key core of how you do this. And she booked an international paid dream stage. Now, how this worked is when Sam came to me, she said, well, I don't know anybody. She had a list of about 15 people. We were on a call for, I think it was an hour session. By the end of it, she had a list of 65 people, right? I'm going to tell you how we got that list from 15 to 65 in a minute. And on that list was a friend of hers she'd known for years, hadn't stayed in touch with them. So she was, they were out of the loop. She was no longer top of mind. She got on a call to reconnect, right? Reconnect, find out how they're doing, et cetera, et cetera. So she's sharing her updates. This is where I'm at. This is what's going on for me. This is where I'm looking to go next. She knew that they were in and around the event industry, or at least they had been in the past. They were at least reasonably well connected. And when she gets to the end of her spiel, he goes, I've been waiting for you to tell me you were doing events. He only happened to be the CEO of the dream gig she told me she wanted to do when she first came to me. He booked her on the spot, flew her out there, paid her fee, and she got to do her dream speaking engagement that had been on her bucket list within a year of working together. And that lead was already in her network. She did not know he was running this event. She didn't know he was the COO of the event. So the same way you don't know, people don't necessarily know what you're up to. Sometimes you don't know what everybody in your network is up to. So this keeping in touch with people isn't simply keeping in touch because I know you're doing something. It's keeping in touch because I don't know. I don't know, but I know you already trust me. And sometimes people are really well connected. Now, the big shift that helped Sam was we went from asking this question, who can book me? This is normally the question that comes up for people's minds. And be honest, throw your hand in the air. If you've been sitting here going, Lovelda, I know nobody. I don't know anybody. Was this the question in your mind? Who can book me? I don't know anybody who can book me. I know nobody who can book me. I'm not that well connected. It's all right for you. It was all right for Sam. It was all right for, your other clients, but I am different and I don't know anybody. I invite you to change this question from who can book me to this one. Who can help me get booked? It's a subtle change. But in who can help me get booked, you now get to consider those people in your network who are really well connected. Right? Maybe they don't book speakers, but you know what? They seem to be in the corporate space and they know everybody. Right? That's a great person to go and let know that this is what you're doing, because they probably know somebody else that you should be speaking to. Right? I booked a gig because I re-caught up with a friend who'd been on a panel of mine years ago. And little did I know, they knew somebody who ran the World Retail Congress that was happening the next year. So they put me in touch with that person. I got booked for that gig. I hadn't called him for that. I just called to catch up. I also happen to know he's very well connected. He was very senior in organizations. I didn't know what he was up to anymore. I knew he'd left the UK, he'd moved to Paris, but I no longer knew what he was up to. So I encourage you to start thinking, who can help me get booked? And that could be other speakers, right? If they're on stages already, they know people who are booking speakers, people who work at companies and organizations that you would love to work in. They're going to have insight as to what's the best way to get in. They're going to understand what their booking cycles and processes are. I think sometimes when you end right at the end of the process and you're looking at opportunities and clients versus looking to nurture your contacts and leads, you then start getting super transactional. And I hope what you're starting to learn here is that this industry is very relational. And when you're being really relational, you get to build good quality relationships with people and ask deeper questions. So, what's your biggest takeaway? What you're learning? I'm going to jump back to the chat because I'm interested. What are you learning? What has been your biggest takeaway? Because there's quite a bit in there. And I think it's important when we attend these sessions to take, I used to do a lot of these things and then people walk away and you've got lots of information and nothing to roll with. So I'm going to give you a moment to really have a think about what's the biggest aha I got from this. I'd love to hear it. And then also, in addition to the biggest aha, what is the biggest thing that I'm going to do as a result of having heard this? And if something, I've noticed that the chat's disabled, so I don't know if you're planning on opening it in a bit, Monique. But if something resonates with you before we jump to I'll give you all the information, then we can jump to the Q&A. If something here resonates with you really deeply and you'd like to dive a little bit further, here's my request for you. I would like you to make a commitment to yourself to take at least one action in the next 7 days. And if you're a real action taker, make it the next 24 hours. Something quick and easy that gets momentum moving. Because I find lots of information and no action doesn't actually do anything. Now we're just in the space of education, not the space of transformation. And you have a lot of new insights here that will help you be able to move your business forward from a speaking perspective. So one action, just one action. It could be a name's dropped in your head. I'm going to drop them an email. I'm going to book a call. I'm going to get back on LinkedIn. I'm going to reconnect to the booker. I'm going to get back to a past client. I'm going to write a list of names. One action to take in the next 7 days and put it in your calendar. And ideally do it in the next 24 hours, 3 days, 24 hours. The sooner the better, because then you've taken action from this. So here's some of the common challenges that I often see people have when it comes to diving in to take action. The first one is building the list. And we've spoken about that already. I've given you a question that will help to translate that. But the first thing people often say is, I struggle to build my list. Then they'll tell me, oh, well, now I've got this list and I don't know what to say. It's a bit awkward, isn't it? It's a bit awkward when you've got a list of people and you're like, now what do I say to you? Hi, can you book me for a gig? How do I actually get that conversation started to get going? Then when it comes to booking the meeting, they get on the meeting, they don't really know what to say in the meeting. And it all just gets a little bit clunky and awkward. And so in principle, it's like, oh, this is great. I'm off. I'm going to get all of these things done. and then tracking the conversations. And I had this problem. Like at one point I thought I'll connect with 10 people a week every day. I think it was 5 people every single week. People get back to you really quickly, and your calendar now gets slammed with meetings, and then you've got follow-up meetings to do after those meetings. And so it can get very overwhelming if you're not careful. And so what happens then is then people start procrastinating, they don't reach out, the meetings get really awkward because there's no system, and so people give up. And so what I did is I took all of this and some, and I put it in something I call the 5K Speaking Accelerator, which comprehensively covers the whole end-to-end booking process. So you'll see here, we look at your niche, optimizing your profile, attracting clients, a whole raft of things. So it gives you the full system for booking engagements. And normally I charge this about 10K a year. However, not doing that. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the module in there that's called the Blueprint to Paid Speaking Gigs, which is purely on how to do warm outreach, right? And normally you can only get it inside the program. And I'm going to gift it to you, £500 if you would like to have it. That's around about 590-ish euros, right? So what that gives you is it gives you scripts. It gives you exactly what to say to book those calls. It gives you how to build the list, little pointers of who to pick out. It's all recorded videos. And then on top of that, I'm throwing in, if you get this in the next sort of 24 hours, a bonus webinar where we go a lot deeper. So you get instant access to the program. And then I'm going to do a bonus Q&A webinar, because I know when people start working on this, you'll start some conversations and then you kind of go, I'm not quite sure. So you get that opportunity to ask me questions. So I think the link is also going to be dropped in the chat. And I'd love to hear all of your questions if you've got any. The QR code's there as well, but I'm going to take this off the screen. You can go to the link in the chat and we'll jump to any questions. I think we've got a decent amount of time for Q&A. I love a Q&A.
And so do I, so do I. I love it. Lovelda, thank you so much for sharing all these nuggets and kicking everyone's butt here, saying, hey, are you doing this? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? Don't do this. Rather do this. So I love it. And thank you for your generous gift. Lovelda has, Brenda has already shared it in the chat. Everyone make sure you grab it for sure right away. Okay. But hey, this is your session. You all know the game, right? It's all about, yeah, it's of course Monique, my name sister. She's saying it's been brilliant and inspiring. Of course it is. That's why every time I do something with Lovelda, it's amazing. It's always brilliant. It's always inspiring. So all of you, please take the opportunity. Raise your little hand or put a question into the chat. Yeah. So
Well, I
yeah,
see the first question in the chat from Simona.
yeah.
I was wondering, any advice to reach out and stay in the loop in a viable, effective way when we know many people but don't know who can help us? What's the structure for always being the individual when when there are so many people? The first thing is being really clear on what it is that you do. I think sometimes you need a really clear strap line that people can remember. The issue sometimes is we know that people will water it down to something that can stay in their mind. So if you're the speaker that goes, I speak on leadership and it's all complicated and it's super wordy, firstly, you're not going to be remembered because it's too much. I can't hold all of that in my brain. So I'm just going to walk away and go, leadership, right? If that's not the thing you wanted me to walk away with, then the problem starts there. And if all I've got is leadership, then what makes you different to every other leadership speaker out there when I'm going to put you up against a different name? So the first thing is we've got to get really clear on what it is that we do and being able to succinctly communicate that in a way that's compelling, right? And sometimes I find a lot of speakers fall at that very first hurdle. So now you're having conversations and people are left bamboozled where they get off it and they're like, I still kind of don't know what they do, right? So you have to have that level of clarity, which means sometimes if you do a lot of things, pick one, right, per call. But don't give people 1,500 different things to do because they'll take a confused mind does nothing, right? So that's the first thing. The second is get on these calls from a very human perspective, right? We're talking to people who are already in our network that we know, like, and trust us. Each of my calls, when I do a warm outreach call, I have a simple, I have 3 or 4 things I'm hoping to get from them, but there's one priority per call. And the priority is never get a booking. unless, of course, that person has already explicitly suggested there's a booking, right? So it may be in some cases, the priority for that call is to get information about the space. So when I shifted to doing more stuff in corporate, I have a very good friend of mine who used to work in HR. She does a lot of stuff with corporates, right? And so what I wanted to really understand from her is, here's what I'm doing right now. So it starts with an update. I'm looking to kind of shift a handy pair, a safe pair of eyes where I don't need to have it 100% perfect. Now, once I've had that conversation, of course, now on top of mind, because I've given her ideas and she's giving me ideas, my offering gets better as a result of it. We move through the dialogue, and I normally end with, do you know anybody that you think I should be speaking to? Like, now that you've got that idea. But the primary purpose of that call wasn't for her to book me, right? The primary purpose of that call was for me to gather information. She's going to have a better understanding of me anyway as a result of it. I get a huge amount of value from it. Naturally, if she loves what I'm saying, the conversation naturally moves to, so who do you think I should be speaking to? Does anybody in your network, based on what you know about me, sometimes it lands with, I'm not ready, right? Like sometimes it's better I spoke to you right now. Let me go away, redo this, and let's have another conversation. Because if I went and pitched, I was clearly going to pitch nonsense because I'm not in the space enough, right? So some of your calls are research calls predominantly. But if I'm ready, then that conversation naturally then moves on to, who do you think I should who do you think would be a great fit? Is there anybody that you think I should recommend, you would want to recommend me to, right? But I don't start there, because everybody knows that person who jumps on a call and all they ever want is something from you. They just want something. It never feels nice to be the other end of, hey, can I just take. So instead, it's a genuine conversation. Like, I love your perspective on this, because we've been around for a while. Sometimes with my bookers, the plan with that is to update them. Past clients, past bookers, past bureaus and agents. I want to give them an up-to-date view of where I am right now. And I want to know what they're hearing on the ground about the market. And I position that as, how do we make more money this year? You know, help me help you, help me make more money this year, right? So it depends on who the person is. But I think the biggest mistake that people make is going into all the calls exactly the same and forgetting you're dealing with the person. It's relationship, not transaction. Relationship, not transaction. You build the relationships, the money's going to come. But if you go transactional, you're going to be working all the time to keep building. But if you have a great quality relationship, what happens is those recommendations are always happening in the background. Does that answer the question for you, Simona? You just like put a thumbs up or something in the chat to let us know that that answers the question.
Right, great question. Thanks, Simona, and great answer, Lovelda. I know a lot of, I also know, coming back to the topic of our session today, a lot of people say, well, I'm already paid a little bit, but I really want to grow my income, my speaking fee significantly. I mean, how did you do it? What is one, two, three quick hints you can share with everyone to say, hey, this is how I went from 1 or 2,000 to a bigger number?
So the thing with, we'll go back to the same principles. People book people they know, like, and trust, right? And so what I did was I looked at the big speakers that people know, they like, and they trust. What are they doing? How are they building that trust? And this industry is an industry that's quite visual. If you do not have, there's, show me, don't tell me. It's probably the best way of saying this. Show me what you do, don't tell me. The best way to get a booking is for people to see you live in action. The next best way is to have great quality footage that gives people an experience of what you do. The hardest way is to try and talk them into it, right? Because that is like a bad writing it out versus them sending the reactions, and you're getting a sense of how they perform. It's an art. People have to see it. It's like a painter describing a painting. It's a very beautiful, just show me the painting. Show me the painting, and then I can decide if I want to buy the painting or not, right? So it's understanding, what is it that bookers and bureaus need to see in order to be able to book you? And often they need to see you in action. They need to know that they can trust you. So credibility factors could be, do you have testimonials of speaking? because I'm expecting you to say good things. I don't know anybody selling me anything who comes and says, just take a punt. I'm just kind of new, sort of starting out. Maybe if you could just give me a chance. They don't do that. So you have to understand everybody else is doing the same thing. I'm amazing. You should book me for your event. So what makes you stand out and makes you more credible, right? So really take those things. And nobody came out of their mother's womb with all of this stuff already together. Okay, so if you're sitting there thinking, I don't have it yet, well, neither did I. Neither did anybody. Everybody started with nothing. We didn't start with amazing show reels. We didn't start with celebrity introductions. We didn't start with amazing clients. We started with something. But if you aren't already putting your best foot forward now for speaking engagements, if I go and look at your profile and I can't even tell that you speak, then if I'm a booker and I'm risk averse, all that tells me is I ain't paying you no big time money because you can't even prove, in order for me to de-risk this, I'm going to reduce your fee. That's what's going to happen because I don't know. So I'm not going to pay as much for what feels riskier. So we've got to take the time to manage my profile. In terms of like increasing the fee, so first is get the profile amazing, and really think about who's the booker, what do they need in order to be able to book you. Look at the profiles of other amazing speakers out there, and what you don't have, start filling those gaps. In terms of increasing your fee, it comes down to you take control of that. It doesn't happen that one day the market wakes up and decides they're now going to start sending you £10,000 where they used to send you 5. That's not how it works. The way I did it is my lowest paid speaking engagement, I swear to God, was about £75. I remember 75. My highest is 40. Okay. Not £40, 40K. Right. So there's quite a gap there over time. And the way I did it, for me, what worked really well is I think I started officially at around £350. And then once 2 or 3 clients said yes to that, I bumped it to 500 because I was like, well, they can negotiate me down to 350, but I've got confidence now people pay that for me, right? And then I went from 500 to 750. And then from 750, I think I just doubled it and decided, screw it, we're just going to call it 1500. And then from 1500, and it's just having the confidence of, well, a couple have said yes at that number, and people are only ever going to negotiate down. So the worst case scenario is I'll ask for 3K and they'll say we've only got 2.5, but my last client paid me 2. So now I'm at 2.5. Woohoo. So I just have like every 2 or 3 clients that said yes to a number, the price went up. Right. So I knew when I started, I was going to be a 10K speaker, 10K plus. That was already agreed. I wasn't ready to charge that. There's no way that number was going to come out of my mouth and sound congruent. It was going to sound like I was begging, like a little, it was going to sound like that. Right. So I needed to give myself that confidence. And the confidence for me came from the first couple of clients saying yes.
Yeah, love it. And again, whenever you're getting paid a new fee, that's your new normal, right? Exactly. Very great. I know that was a question a lot of you had here, so I kind of predicted it. So I gave it to you, Lovelda. There's another one from Monique saying, does the booker propose a speaker fee up front?
So let's start here. Do people know the difference between a speaker bureau and a speaker agent or manager? Drop a Y in the chat if you do, or an N if you don't, because otherwise I'll take a couple of steps back so I can give you the fullest response. Let's see. We're getting, okay, so we've got no. Okay, don't know. Okay. So explanation incoming. Here we go. So speaker, I'm going to call them managers and agents. So you've got people like London Speaker Bureau. They're sometimes called bureaus, agents, bookers. The way that these people, their business model is they have a lot of speakers on their books, and then clients come to them to book them for gigs, to find speakers for them. What that means is in that setup, and that's the vast majority of the bookers that people are looking at, in that setup, you are the talent, not the client, right? You're the talent, not the client, because clients come to the booker or the agent looking for speakers, which means that if you're on the books of London Speaker Bureau, I heard the numbers, right? Basically about 20% of those speakers each year actually get one booking. They have tens of thousands of people in their books. Each of the agents is effectively a salesperson. If you cannot sell yourself, they are not going to go through the hard work of figuring out how to do it for them because it's not worth their effort because they've got 10,000 people in the books they could pick from, right? So what they will do is, from a booker's perspective, it's always in their best interest to put the highest number possible out there. And normally what happens is the client will come with a budget range, kind of similar to a estate agent. The client says, here's how much I've got to spend. This is what I'm looking for. This is what my vibe is. They understand it. And then they go back and they kind of go, here's some speakers that we think would be a really great fit for your event that are within your budget. So that's normally what happens there. Managers, on the other hand, are like talent managers, like actors have managers. That's the person that's responsible for all your bookings. Managers will help you manage your bookings, manage your positioning, manage, set you up. And they tend to have fewer people and they give much more of a personal touch. Here's a key thing with both of them. If you aren't already getting paid, you're of very little interest to them. Because firstly, a manager makes no money off £1,000 here and £1,000 there over the year, and they're taking a cut out. They make no money out of that. So it's not exciting or valuable. And the amount of additional effort they have to put in order to make that work is not helpful, right? So you need to be punching at a particular way before you're even of any interest to a manager, right? Similarly, most bureaus and agents, if you're making less than about 2 or 3K, again, it doesn't make sense because they have costs associated with it and they have to they take a cut of each of blah, 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 blah. And so there comes a point where commercially it doesn't make sense. So when you're starting, I work with a lot of new speakers and they'll say, I want to get, can I just have somebody, can I have a booker? Can I have an agent? And what they're really saying is, can somebody else figure out how to market me? And my answer to that is, it's not compelling for anybody else to figure this out for you. It's just not a compelling proposition. It's not part of their business model. And unfortunately, if you want to figure that out, I'd say work with coaches, some sort of speaker coach, somebody who works with professional speakers, helping them with their positioning and marketing. Work with them initially to help you iron this stuff out and get to the point that you're getting a few paid engagements in. Secondly, I always see bookers and agents as an accelerant, because anything that comes through a bureau, that is never your client. Understand, if a bureau gets you a gig, you can never go back to that client. That is not your client. That is the bureau's client. And if they want to rebook you, they have to go back to that bureau. Now, if they don't go back to the bureau and you think you're sly, you will be blacklisted not only by that bureau, but by anybody else they speak to, and it's small. So it's not worth it to take in, I'll take a couple of grand here. They will not come back to you because they work hard for those client relationships, which means that if your business is built on bureaus and you fall out of favor with the bureau, your business goes with it and you have no clients to go back to. So I personally like my own book of business, and then bureaus is a cherry on the top, but it depends on your business model. It depends on whether or not you've got the time and energy to do upsells. So hopefully that answers that question. You might have noticed I'm quite comprehensive in my responses. I can't help myself.
We love them. It's been an amazing call, very inspiring for sure. And yeah, so I think all of you know the power of speaking and the power of really using your voice and turning at least one of the hints from Lovelda today into action, right? Again, the question is, what is it you're going to do in the next 7 days? I always say it's even better in 7 days, right? Within the next 24 hours, my friends. That's why Lovelda and I love each other so much. We don't only inspire people, we get everyone into action because we want you to get results. So I would say again, it was a powerful session. All of you, put into the chat, like, what's the one thing you're committing to right here, right now to take action on? Because again, when you take action on it, it's going to move you forward sometimes much further, faster than you could ever imagine. And Mike, don't worry about it. Good news is we have a recording of this session. It will go into our Hall of Fame. So, I know some of you were held up in a call. We have a lot of people that wanted to be with us but couldn't. You are the lucky ones that you could spend this hour with us. And a big thank you to you, first of all, Lovelda. I know what busy, thought after lady you are. Speaker, rock star, everything else, right? And Lovelda is not only teaching this, she is definitely living it. So check out her LinkedIn profile, connect with her directly for sure. And all of you, again, turn some of the insights, the hints, the little lovely kicks in the butt into action, right? So I love that Monique is saying, I call a contact in New York City where I plan to speak this fall. Amazing, amazing. Love, love, love it. We have at least one lady that is going to be committed to take action. All of you, please put it in here because we're going to hold the space for you to see what you're going to do. And again, it's always good for you to write it down yourself. It's even better talking about visibility to just share it with all of us right here, right now. Because again, when you make that commitment, not only to yourself, but to everyone here, it's even more likely that you do it. And when you do it, yay, moving forward. Anyhow, a big thank you to you, Lovelda. Loved, loved, loved having you. Thank you for staying, having a very interactive, lovely Q&A session as well with everyone. So, I know that all of you want to stay in touch with Lovelda for sure. Take advantage of her amazing offer. Okay, we have the link in the chat. Precious, precious gift for sure. And yeah, Lovelda, do you want to round it off for everyone with a final encouraging, inspiring,
No
wonderful
pressure.
message? Oh, go ahead.
No, please do connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find. So it's Lovelda Vincenzi. I think it's Lovelda Vincenzi MC. You'll see me on there if you've got any additional questions that you want to ask. Look, here's the thing about speaking. It's not complicated. And if you treat it like a business, it will pay you as such. But if there's one major insight I heard a number of guests from the Speaker Summit on Friday share was, I didn't realize how much money is in this. And I didn't realize that speaking can be a profession in the same way that accounting is. There's a lot you can do with your speaking business, should you wish to. But it does require that you have to get as serious about this being a business as you would like clients to be about paying you. And if you're willing to go on that journey, the world's your oyster. I mean, I have friends of mine who are making 15, 20K a gig. You don't have to do a lot of those in a year, but you do have to commit to putting as much of your energy behind this as you do behind the other parts of your business. And if you do, it can reward you really beautifully in whatever you choose to do. If this is a path you're going on, every day just do a little bit to move things forward.
Yeah, it's these tiny, tiny steps that get you there. And Lovelda, I love it what you're saying. A lot of people just don't realize how much money is in there, not only for on the speaking side, but really growing your business, right? I mean, when I built my business, hard part business, right, 4 years in a row, I doubled my income every year, 4 years in a row, thanks to speaking. Thanks to speaking. Because people saw me, connected with me, wanted to work with me, right? That's what we do. And a lot of people, our people that we worked with over years, doubled, tripled, quadrupled, and more their income in a year, some of them within a couple of months, by showing up more and speaking up. Okay. Now imagine, okay, you could find more of your most amazing clients. What would I mean? And you could find them easily in just an hour on stage, makes all the difference, right? So every one of you also, you know that we run our 8 steps professional speakers launch program. If you want to have a conversation with me, please let's have a conversation. Definitely also take up Lovelda and her precious gift. You always want to learn from anyone around you, and especially people that are where you want to be one day. Okay. And I think we all learn from each other. So let's talk. Okay, take up Lovelda on her. Thank you also for connecting with Lovelda on LinkedIn. So for sure, connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is definitely not to be exchanged with any other name. I am unique in the world with Monique Blogzel for sure. Our Power Business, find me there. Let's connect. And all of you, I know we are going a little bit into a summer break in August. We don't have a call, but we're back in September with another amazing guest. Okay. But again, a lot of people think that summertime is low time. No, it's not at all. People do not go on vacation for 8 weeks. They don't. Okay. So again, use July, use August to, now that people are more relaxed, refresh these connections. Boost your visibility. Let the right people see you. Guess what? They have now time to sit on the beach and watch at their LinkedIn messages more than any other time. So please don't think like summertime is low time and you can take action in September. No, in September, we want you to be booked already. Okay. So use the summertime right now. Turn the learning into action. Thank you, Lovelda, for being on with us. Thank you all for being on with us. Thank you, Brenda, from my team. Let's show her with some love as well. She's always pulling the strings behind the scene. Without her, we would be nothing. She's amazing, always holding the space for all of us. And all of you, thank you for investing that hour, in being with us. And we will be back with another amazing guest in September. But between now and September, there's a lot of action you can take, one tiny step at a time. And everyone that books a call with me, we give you these little tiny baby steps every day. We tell you day by day, from the 1st of January to the 31st of December, every single day, we give you a little fun step of what you can do to boost your clarity, your confidence, your speaking, your income, your systems, and everything else. So please take advantage of that. Book a call with me as well. And everyone that does gets this calendar for free. And it's already made a lot of difference in our speakers and entrepreneurs' life. So all of you go out there, enjoy the summer for sure. If you go on vacation, enjoy the vacation to the fullest. You want to recharge your batteries. And if you're not on vacation, do what you always do. Speak up, scale up, impact the world in your own unique way. All the best for now. See you soon.